Quite a lot is happening across the world, and the conflict in the Middle East is still ongoing. And obviously, right here in South Africa, we do have David Hirsh, all the way from the UK, but also CEO of the London Centre for the Study of Contemporary Anti-Semitism. So he's right here in South Africa to launch a book. So once again, thank you so much indeed for your time, David.
Pleasure. Hi.
Lovely. So once again, David, you talk about the rise of anti-Semitism. Obviously, what's happening in the Middle East, it's absolutely atrocious, where we've seen quite a number of civilians killed. But let's look at the trend that you're talking about.
So the trend I'm talking about really is that people more and more are coming to think of Israel as a key, symbolic, unique evil in the whole world. So they don't think of the conflict that Israel has with the Palestinians as being a conflict like other conflicts, but they think of Israel as being a kind of symbol of evil. And they know that the overwhelming majority of Jews around the world identify in one way or another with Israel. And then those Jews tend to get identified as symbols of evil themselves. And I don't think Israel is a symbol of evil. I don't think it's a unique evil. I don't even think it's very evil, and therefore the kind of fallout from calling it evil and treating Jews as evil or as genociders, which is like Nazis, it has a bad effect, and it's not based on truth, I think.
Once again, David, now let's look at, issues around 7th October. You spoke about a lot of changes that you've seen in terms of how the Jews are treated. But I suppose the big question is, can we see peace? Can we see coexistence between Israel and Palestine?
Well, I hope we can see peace and coexistence. 7th of October was a kind of extraordinary day out of nowhere, certainly as it appeared to Israelis. A force came into Israel and it combed a number of places where people lived and a music festival, and it used murder and rape and kidnapping as weapons of war. And it was quite shocking. A significant proportion of all Israelis were affected. Israel is a small country, people know each other, families know each other, and very few people were untouched by the violence that came to attack Israeli civilians as they were dancing, as they were living their lives. So, and of course, this resonates strongly with experiences that Jews have had in the past, and I think Israel was very keen to make sure that this does not happen again. And of course, it led into the conflict that we see around us. I think there is certainly a possibility of peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I think that there are forces on both sides, both in Israel and in Palestine, that do not want peace. And I think that Hamas, in organizing the killing of hundreds of Jews on a particular day, shows the truth of itself, which is that it came into existence actually to disrupt the peace process between the PLO and Israel, by killing Israelis, to make Israelis not believe in the peace that was offered, and it succeeded in destroying, to some extent, it was responsible for destroying the peace process. Fast forward some time since the collapse of the peace process, and there have been all kinds of possibilities of peace, but going and murdering people in cold blood and close up and using rape as a war weapon is not a way to further peace. Now, the war that has ensued has been awful.
Before I let you go, David, surely what's happening in Gaza is highly untenable. I mean, the massive number of fatalities that you have seen. But you were speaking about how Hamas is working, for example, in terms of how they are embedded in civilian infrastructure and stuff. But surely what we've seen, it's utterly obscene.
It's awful. The death toll is awful, and the civilians who've died is awful. There's this disagreement about how that's come about. There are many quite serious military experts who say, in fact, that in urban warfare of this kind, that Israel is quite good at minimizing casualties, and there are other people who say that Israel is quite careless about allowing civilian casualties around the war.